Yes, guys, welcome to the next video of next part in the first technical section. So moving on from that last lesson where we talked about institutional order flow. Now, what I mentioned in that video is order blocks, and we've got different types. So me personally, I would break it down into 3 different types. So I'm going to be looking at first one, type 1 with entries, and every single one is going to be how you enter, where you put stop loss, where you put take profit. But yeah, let's just get into it. So, like I said, let's just take an example of a downtrending structure. What do we have? We've got this low, this higher high, lower high, this lower low, lower high, and then prices keeps on downtrending. Now, what would people in the retail environment say? They would say that, oh, this right here, oops, this right here is a support, is a resistance line, because you've got, that resistance right there. And you would be valid in saying that, but you're going to be seeing later on is a lot of this retail logic does not work. I mean, I used to trade retail before even knowing about smart money concepts and everything, but when you understand how order blocks work, and what I talked about in the last lesson, is it makes so much sense. Price always has to come back and mitigate it. Now, whether it does this now or later on, eventually price will be mitigated, because you've got these massive losses from the banks, and they want to reduce all them losses as much as possible. So getting into the first one, you got the standard order block. What we discussed in that last lesson is exactly the same thing here. You've got is pretty much the if you're in a downtrend, it's the up candle before the down move. Now, what I would recommend, especially in the beginning, is use 2 different colors on your candles. Me personally, I use gray for the ones that go on the upside and black on the ones on the downside. You used to use blue, green, whatever you want, you can just change it. But you must understand the standard order block is simply the up candle before the down move, or the down candle before the up move. Now, how do we use this? You've got different types, different entry points. First one, I would say, is the wick entry, depending on how big the candle is, because sometimes, as you can see from, if you see my cursor, from this candle right here, the wick is very far from the body. But because we're looking at a refined entry of this order right here, look, you've got to understand one thing. It's been unmitigated. It's been one up move and then one straight massive down move all the way to the downside. Price has not even come back to take any of that, to mitigate any of that up move before we started moving down. Hence why we're looking at this as my first point of interest. Now, you've got this wick entry. Stop loss would be just above the top of the wick. Second type, it would be the body entry. Stop loss above the area as well, just to keep it safe. So not just above the wick, but surrounding candles as well. The body entry is widely used, especially for people who work on the 1 hour time frame. Now, of course, if you're working on the 1 hour and you're using the body, for example, you're not going to be getting trades that are, say, 1 to 50 or whatever you've seen on my case studies. Hence why I refined my entries. But it's the second type. The third type, I would say, is body as well, stop loss just touching with the wick. Now, this is a bit more risky, but it's up to you. How risk averse are you? Personally, I would go for a stop loss above the area. I mean, especially if you're on funded accounts, you're trading other people's money, it's or even your own money, and it's a large amount of capital. Why would you want to add that extra risk, maybe just for an extra percentage that you can gain on the trade? Quite a lot of people, they would say enter off the 50%. But for me personally, when I refine my trades, by the way, I mean 50% of the body. So you see right here, you would get 50% right bang in the middle, enter off that. And in this case, it would have worked. But personally, I refine my entries. You're going to be seeing later on in the advanced videos how we do it. But yeah, second type of order block. This one is what I like to call the engulfed order block. Now, it's different to the last one that we saw. It's not the last up move before the down move, but instead it's the one that gets engulfed. Now, what does it mean engulfed? First time I heard engulfed is when something goes on fire, it like covers it completely. What we mean in trading terms is the candle, the whole body gets covered by the next candle. So you see, for example, right here, the body or the wick or whatever, it completely blows it out. So it's not one where, let me just draw it really quick. I'll just annotate it right here. It's not one where you might get this order block right here and then the next move is like that. It's still inside the range. No, instead, it really pushes the boundary and goes out. That's exactly what we're seeing here. It pushes past it. So the first type is the open of the body, as we see on the first type here. The second type is, again, the open right there. It's the wick in this case. Like I said here on the right, it doesn't matter whether it's a buy or a sell candle, no matter the color, the whole candle must be engulfed by the next one. So it really doesn't, like here, we've got two cases. We've got the black one and then the gray one. Does not matter whether it's the gray or the black, whether it's an up or a down candle. It's the candle that gets engulfed in the next one completely. So in this example right here, what do we have? We've got an example of the first engulfed candle that we see. Now, if you were trading off the first type of order block that we talked about, what would you have expected? The down candle before the up candle is this massive candle right here. Personally, I have never traded off a massive candle like this because you're going to get a crazy stop loss. It's probably going to be, if this is on a 1 hour, maybe 50, 60 pips, which I've never done in my life. You're barely, I feel like you're barely going to get into any profit from there. It might be a 1-to-1, for example, as 0.5% risk to reward. Now, this is exactly what we're seeing with the engulf candle. Comes straight back down. Obviously, this is a discounted area. Enter off that body. How does the trade look? Entry right off the body, stop loss beneath the lows. Like I said here, open of the body, stop loss past the wick. Type 2. This one is off the wick. So like I described here, there's going to be, usually it's a smaller wick. So for example, you might get a small body, massive wick to the downside, and then a small wick right at the top. Because the body is so small, and that's the main thing you've got to understand from this one, the body is so small that the wicks of the candle is much larger. Personally, I would enter off that wick right there. And that's exactly what happened in this case study. This is a screenshot I took from one of the trades sent in my Telegram ages ago, but it just shows and proves to you this is exactly what you see in the market. Order block type 3. This one is what you call a breaker block. Now, personally, it's the closest thing I've seen in smart money concepts to support and resistance, but it's more pinpoint. So what it is a previous order block that has been broken through. So previous order block that has been broken through, we've smashed right through it to the downside, and now we're returning back to it. Usually it's most effective when prices move in very bullish or bearish with minimal pullbacks. So what do I mean by that? Sometimes you're going to get perfect order flow where price moves like this. But how often do you see that? Very rarely. I'm going to be honest. What you would usually see is you might see consolidation, breakout. You might get some nice order flow. But then when you get this massive move away, how likely is it that price will return right to this discounted area? And this is a breaker block. Is perhaps the only time that you would enter anywhere less than a discounted area. And this is something that we're going to get into further in when we go into Wyckoff and everything else. The breaker block is right here. It's the one that was smashed through and you enter straight off it. Now in retail concepts, this is what you would say as support. And that's perfectly valid. Now, personally, I would say to retail traders, you're not trading retail and support and resistance. It's actually the breaker blocks that you're trading off. Now, moving on to, whoops, entry type 1. First one is a breaker block through a liquidity void. So what do I mean by that? We're going to get into more into liquidity voids, but to explain it simply, it's a place where there's unbalanced movement. So you see here how we're going up and we're going down. We're going up, going down, going up, going down. We're seeing black and gray candles, but with a liquidity void or an imbalance, it's what you would say is unhealthy price action. Now, sometimes a liquidity void right here, I don't want to confuse you too much because we're going to go into this later on, but identify this breaker block right here. We're just beneath the lows. So what did we say? Market structure, you look for these highs, you look for these lows. Breaker block right there, that would be the entry. And that's what it looks like. Then you've got entry type 2, a breaker block paired with a standard order block. Now, this really is looking into retail, for example, but you've got the breaker block back here. And the thing is, these breaker blocks actually have a lot of power because there were areas where a lot of orders happened previously, and orders may still be held from that area. Hence why it comes back to mitigate that area. So we've got this breaker block right here paired up with this standard order block right here. You see this massive move up and down. Now you could enter right off there. Would usually with these, it's a bit harder to understand how to, set your stop loss and everything. But with this one that I took quite a while ago, played out perfectly, entered straight into it, didn't break this low, so we can still say yes, we're in a bullish structure. So yeah, guys, please look back at this lesson. It's going to be very, very important for you to understand. Don't confuse yourself with all the different entry types. What it is just I'm explaining to you how you could enter. So it could be off the wick, it could be off the body. If you really want to play it safe, the safest way with the largest stop loss would just be the wicks and then set stop loss past the whole candle. So yeah, that's it for this lesson, guys. Hope you understood anything. Just please take notes on what I've done, draw it up, and also look on TradingView, look back test, see what's going on. And yeah, hopefully it all makes sense.